Okay.
Are we on?
Yep.
Okay, good morning, Niskayuna. It is 8:30 on August 4th at the Economic Development, Historic Preservation, and Environmental Conservation Committee. And I guess we will start with attendance.
Yep, I have no one online. Dennis Brennan is here, Elizabeth Greenwood, Dart Strayer, Kevin Walsh, Trish Borgami, and Chairman Delarada.
Okay, and do we have any comments from the public, either by email? I don't see anybody present.
I didn't get any requests.
All right, and that brings us to the minutes of July 7th, 2023. I will make a motion to approve those.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that passes unanimously. And that brings us to our other resolutions.
Okay, so we have a carryover from last month, the non-binding resolution recognizing and supporting the Quiet Niskayuna initiative. Yeah, I put their flyer in the packet again. I know we talked about it last time, but I think what we wanted to do with the resolution in support of them is it would be allow the CAC to put some of the Quiet Niskayuna stuff on their website and just kind of integrate them into the CAC. So I didn't know if anybody had any thoughts or wanted to discuss that anymore. It was okay to move forward.
I would just say that I think part of it is information dispersal. I think people they're annoyed by it, but they don't understand maybe they don't know there's other options out there. So by putting this out on the town website, we're hoping to get the word out better.
Yeah, I agree. I think for an informational standpoint, it's excellent. I mean, obviously we can't enforce it because the town doesn't use all electric equipment yet, which hopefully, I guess we'll start switching over. Are we talking about doing that as the gas stuff goes, moving over to electric?
To help the town do that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
It's right now, I don't even think it would necessarily recognize the town. It's recognizing the Quiet Niskayuna initiative and holding it.
Yeah.
But yes, we can. I know in the climate smart communities, like you can make a purchasing policy that requires for you to review like electric options for you to purchase, which doesn't mean you have to purchase them. But it's kind of like complete streets. It just means that you look and see if you can do a complete street treatment before you repave. So it's a thought, but I haven't even looked at that yet. So
Yeah, so I think we're ready to move forward this as long as the community knows that it's not enforceable.
right.
And I think it's important to get people's
Information.
awareness out for their own personal needs. I'm not sure what you're gonna do. My son's a landscape. I don't know what you're gonna do to get him to switch, but if I buy a leaf blower, but I would be more likely to buy a electric one because it's healthier.
Okay. Yeah, I think just first step, like get the information out there. So the best first step I think is information before like requiring things.
All right.
Okay. So the next is a resolution. I'm proposing a resolution for the town board to enter into change order with J.H. Malloy. That's the third page in your packet. I can put it up here for you guys if you want. And essentially, the contractor that we have right now for doing Upper Union Street and the St. Joseph Crosswalk bid a number to do the Plum Street sidewalk. It was actually bid to a number of companies at the same time, and this is a reasonable quote within those bids, and we're able to move it as a change order to the existing contract. It is more than 10 or 15% of the contract. I think the total contract was like $210,000 or something like that. So it's a significant change order, but it allows them to get right in there, spend the money. The quote is very in line with what we saw when we bid. So my recommendation is if they have the time and the equipment and we have the budget, that we should move forward with the change order.
And we do have that.
Well, yeah, I sent it to Beth, because I think it might also need to go on to finance.
Yes, I'll put it on finance, but this is, we had identified money to start working on our ADA compliance and the sidewalk will help us move along that way. So we've got money in that line.
Excellent.
And, the next, resolution, a resolution authorizing to enter into a change order with Weston and Sampson is for the construction inspection. So that just goes hand in hand with authorizing the contractor. I need a engineer out there to do construction inspection, and their estimate for the sidewalk is $4,500 to do construction. And that both falls within the ADA budget line we have.
Okay. And does that go through finance as well or no?
Yeah, right?
I'll put them on there
Okay.
so that
Yep.
they're, and because they're kind of linked together.
Okay.
Okay, and then so the fourth resolution I had was combining the Climate Smart Communities Task Force with the Conservation Advisory Council. I have to figure out exactly how I'd word this, but I brought this up at the CAC meeting. My Climate Smart Communities Task Force has had a hard time meeting, and essentially the CAC members have sort of taken on doing the work for the Climate Smart Communities Task Force anyway. The composting program, which is a Climate Smarts program, was run entirely by Ellen, it's on the CAC. The NRI, which is actually also a Climate Smart Communities program, is run entirely by the Shokes. So is in terms of like me submitting grants and things, it's better if I have regular meetings, and if the CAC people are already doing the work for the Climate Smart, then what we talked about doing is that I'll fold them into the CAC as kind of a subcommittee, which I think is still fine. And then we could designate a coordinator who would do a report at every CAC meeting of what Climate Smart stuff had been done.
So would that be a new committee or would it just be merging into the CSAC?
So I'm having a hard time getting them to meet. And what I think Ellen's idea was to take a couple of the members that still seem to want to care and come and see if they can join the CAC.
Which we need a couple members.
Which
We do, and if we make it as a subcommittee, then we're semi-autonomously with the CAC, but be under the umbrella of the CAC.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We discussed it, and I think all the people on the board are.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then, because I need to submit regular meetings and minutes from them and stuff, is essentially I just be able to submit the report to the CAC every month. And I just think it streamlines some things as long as everybody's okay with that.
Mhm. Yes.
We want to make sure, though, when we do this merge, that anybody who is currently on the climate initiative effort, that they get folded in, if they want to be,
Mhm.
you know, and they're committed to do it.
How many interested people do we have on the Climate Smart Committee?
So I don't know. I think
Okay.
potentially active people were that too. Either join the CAC or they could stay on the subcommittee, meet with the task force coordinator. And then that task force coordinator would just report to the CAC.
And do we still need 2 members on the CAC?
Yeah, yes.
Great.
Does that include, is that current, or because we anticipate we might need additional?
I think that includes that we have one CAC member who's trying to hold on, but we think he's not gonna be able to make it just with his childcare commitments. So we're probably gonna lose one.
Well, that would kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah, I'm hoping, I noticed when we were submitting for this last Climate Smart grant, the need for regularly folding that committee into something that is gonna be more formal, so that when I submit for these grants,
Mhm.
it's very clear that we're doing all the work. Like, we've done all the work, like, if you look at the hours and the NRI and everything that we've done, it all counts. But it actually is CAC and not Climate Smart Communities
Right.
Task Force, so that becomes a little strange when you're trying to do your grant work and stuff, so.
All right.
Okay, so, and then the last thing I had was the resolution awarding a bid to purchase and install the pavilions for the Railroad Park. I included the request for quotes in the packet. The request for quote, was, put out to, the Gazette on Wednesday. Bids are due on August 16th. And, essentially, this is, we're hoping that the budget will come in under what we submitted for the grant. And, we're trying to get it installed, hopefully within 6 weeks of it being awarded, but it could be a little bit longer if we need it. But essentially, they would be purchasing a pavilion kit and installing it on the existing asphalt in River Road, or it's a concrete in River Road there. So it goes. And,
How much should we allot for that?
so we allotted about 45,000, and so hopefully that will that the bids will come in around or under. And we did two kinds of things. Like this is the typical one we have in Blatnick Park, and this is the one that we put in the grant, which has an open end trust, which is a little fancier. Because we're hoping that we'll be able to rent this pavilion and yeah. It'll be next to the new playground that the supervisor's been working on, and eventually, I know she's been working really hard. It's designed to have bathrooms next to it, so I know she's been working hard to try and get my new kids' bathrooms up there as well.
Excellent. That's a good size pavilion.
Yeah, so we're hoping as long as we get some bids on August 16th and they come in correctly, that would be a tentative resolution, but we would want to put that on there so we forward it.
Excellent. And that brings us to the planning board.
Okay, yeah, and just some updates. The last planning board meeting, most recent action we had was the approval for the change for 1222 Twice Country Road. That's the law offices to a place of worship / food pantry / childcare. Subject that they get approvals from the town of town of County. Things we're working on right now is a block Algonquin 2386 and 2383 Troy roads, and that was a mutual consent between the two neighbors to do a lot line adjustment, required a ZBA area variance, which there was granted. So we'll have a tentative resolution for approval for that lot line adjustment at the next meeting on the 14th. Other stuff that we're just waiting on, 2890 River Road, if that application is still active, we'll expect to see that at the next meeting. If it's still kicking around. And 1900 Union Street, 1854 Union Street, that's a new application that we briefly discussed at our last meeting. And that's also a lot line adjustment, but the new parcel will have 2 front yards, one on Troy Road and one on Union. So looks like we'll have to send that one on to the ZBA, but I think we look pretty positive at it. So it makes sense what they're doing, and hopefully the ZBA will support it. Stuff we're waiting on, I'll let Laura talk later on about Mall Golf Club, Aqueduct Road. I heard that they're we still got some outstanding items and they still need approval for their senior apartments. I guess they came in looking for a building permit, but they don't have the approvals yet. So we'll have to hopefully get them on the agenda if they're ready to bring closure to that project. And then 1748 Main Street, Laura, that's one we just got to check to see if there's still an application or whether there's still interested. That was the, I think it was a realtor or somebody was looking to do that because they might have had a potential sale there. I don't know if that fell through or not.
Is that small brick building?
Yeah. Yep.
River Road, still got to work on Kelt's Farm, the signage. It's in the town right away. And Brookdale, my understanding is they got rid of their most of their storage pods. One's going to remain, and submitted a site plan application. So hopefully we can take a look at that and update what's going on. And
So that small brick building, that's residential, commercial?
It's
residential.
mixed use commercial right now. I think there was some kind of something on the bottom and then apartments on the top.
It's kind of small,
Well,
picturing it, and it's
yeah,
been
yeah.
sitting there for a while.
To the end of Antwerp, it's like right across the road.
Yes. Pavement all around it.
All around it, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing we really were going to focus on is trying to clean that up and get some green space there.
Yes.
And make it look better.
Yeah.
It's still,
It's a cute building, nice little building.
Originally, we had a proposal to take the building down, and I think the planning board pushed back a little. I know Mr. Superintendent said like that building has a lot of character. Try and save it, yeah. And then we got a completely separate application. I think to maintain it as a mixed use building with a new tenant, but yeah.
Good.
Okay. So I actually forgot to update the zoning board for August. It's actually 4 cases for August. One is to maintain a pod for longer than is allowed. One is a deck, and then 2 sheds,
it's a pod for,
residential.
is it, what's this? Oh, it's residential.
It's residential, yeah.
How long is a pod?
So a pod is essentially allowed 3 months in the town of Niskuna, and after that you can't have it.
2 months?
3.
Oh,
First,
3 months.
yeah, the first month's free, and then the second 2 months are $25 each. And in this case, it's residential because of the timelines allotted from a denial. The deposit's been out there for about 5 months, I think, and they're asking for longer. Sometimes people do because they're doing renovations and things.
Mhm.
It's variably successful in front of the zoning board though, because pods are pretty ugly in front of people's homes, so. So as far as the grants update, waiting on the NRI grant, hopefully that paperwork comes through. We successfully submitted a Climate Smart grant, with the help of, you know, a lot of Complete Streets members, Jean, Supervisor Beth. We get, some sidewalks in, sidewalks. We talked about this a little at the Conservation Advisory Council meeting, but, probably the biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions in Niskayuna is vehicle trips. And so if you get sidewalks that allow people to choose to walk instead of drive, you're reducing vehicle trips, which is one of the really big things, targets that Niskayuna needs to work on. So hopefully DEC will review that favorably. And I did want to note and thank the town board and Beth were really supportive of that. You know, it's a big match, it's a big grant, and it shows a big commitment from the town of Niskayuna for Climate Smart initiative and also Complete Streets, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a great thing. It's much needed, especially in that area.
Yeah, I really hope we get it. We'll see. I think it's a pretty competitive grant. There's no guarantees, but you can just think that the exercise of going through the grants model was really good. So the next thing I have for you guys, oh yeah, and I'm working on the greenhouse gas inventory RFP. We have to get up soon. Is the Complete Streets is ready to do their bike lane demonstration project for Lexington Ave. They have talked about this, and I think I brought it here a couple times. So what we're talking about is a single block of Lexington. Oops, I think I have a good map of it. If I that's my computer. Oops. So essentially, it's just a single block of Lexington, or 2 blocks, where instead of using paint, because sometimes our paint hasn't washed out very well, we're talking about tape that you put on the road, which I guess you've used in demonstration projects before. And so we're talking about taping 2 bike lanes. Lexington is separated by a median, so it has the different lanes of traffic separated by a median. So one of the things that we talked about is that for Grand Boulevard, we've been discussing with the county whether or not a bike lane should go on the right side of the median or the left side. So like if you're going, you know, eastbound on Grand Boulevard or whatever, if the bike lane would be in the right where you normally see bike lanes, or if it'd be on the left, kind of like hugging the median, there's advantages to both. And we've been wanting to do a demonstration project on Lexington of a bike lane for a while. So what we were proposing is, there you can see that is a bike lane on the right where you're kind of used to looking for bike lanes. So this is oncoming, the bike would be oncoming towards you on its right. And then this is what this is what a left, like a left bike lane would look like. So essentially it puts the cars to the right and then it puts the bike lane to the median, and it allows for better sharing of on-street parking. That's the advantage to doing the travel lane on the right and the bike lane towards the median. It also keeps all walkers and bikers kind of together in the median. And so what we were thinking is that we could stripe 1 lane with it in the traditional right and 1 lane with it in the left, and then just get feedback from people.
What's the disadvantage of doing it on the left?
It's not traditionally where people look for a bike lane, right? Because you're trained when you're biking to ride on the right of cars and all that stuff. And so you're putting the bikes on the left of cars. So it's not a traditional placement for the bikes. And then you do have to figure occasionally you need to kind of provide for the bikes to cross that vehicle lane to get into the median. But once they're in that bike lane and it's striped, they've successfully striped them in lots of cities around. We could find examples of them. They seem to work fine. And they do, so they're DOT and the American AASHTO prescribes when you should use the left bike lane and when you should use the right. And one of the big things they say is, if you have to maintain the on-street parking, then you really should consider a left bike lane. Because otherwise people are in the bike lane. Or you get the dooring where people are riding down the bike lane.
So Grand Boulevard doesn't have a parking lane, but Lexington does.
Yeah, so Lexington doesn't have a parking lane. And there's not that much on-street parking on it actually, but it's allowable because it's a town road. So if we were to strike the bike lane on the right, you'd probably by default no longer be allowed to do on-street parking on Lexington, which would be a pretty big move for the town. That's another advantage to putting it in along the median.
Yeah.
So the plan was, to bring it to the committees yesterday, but I realized that both of them were when I had to drop my daughter and pick her up from camp. So I'm going to separately reach out to public safety. I know I've reached out to them before on the right, it was on Lexington, and they were okay with it. But I haven't talked to them about the left, and then also talked to highway and just make sure that everybody's on board, and then we'll bring it back to you again, but probably like fall.
All right. Yeah, we talked about this last year.
Yeah, we have, yeah. We don't want to do it without total support from all the town departments and also reaching out to the residents. Because we've done some demonstration projects where we thought we did enough outreach and apparently we didn't. So we're trying to make sure that we really got everybody on board this.
We'll get the pedestrians out of the vehicle.
I know that's I agree. I saw that when I was looking at it. You're not rocking in the right spot. Good thing you're just shadows. So the tree council met with homeowners on Hillside Ave in July. And they're working on a tree planting project there with National Grid and the Highway Department. Had Ray go out and look at some of the places that we put the flags. And we have one more shipment of elms that are coming this year, and we're hopeful that we can put those on the north side of Hillside right of way. It's very bare right there. And where the homes are, we can use the National Grid, but across from the homes, there's no power line, so you're not able to use the National Grid grant. So that's why we thought that would be a really good place to put the elms. And now eventually you'll start to get that canopy like we have in all these, you know.
Where is this with relation to the water?
So I think we looked at the utility maps before we went out there. The elms are on the north side of Hillside, and they're like all the way to the property line basically because you have a multi-use path. And the water line is pretty close to the road, I think, so they're not even close to the water line. I know when I first moved here, Rich was all proud of the new water line that we installed on Hillside.
Yeah, there's a 16-inch water main
Yeah.
and a low pressure sewer.
Yeah.
Both sides of the road.
So we looked, because of National Grid's poles and the multi-use path and making room for the multi-use path, it pushes the trees right to the edge of the right of way.
Laura already talked about the quietness unit initiative attached there. We also spent some time at our last meeting talking about composting, and as a town, we ran a class, and we had that the reception on that was quite good. And there's a lot of interest in continuing that, but in addition to that, what we'd like to do is run a pilot composting program. Basically we would have a bin at the transfer station. It would be locked. And the initial program would have about 30 residents that would sign up for it. And they would basically collect their food waste in Home Depot buckets, so to speak, the
5-gallon pail.
5-gallon pails. And periodically they would come and, put it in a compost bin, again, which is locked, so it would be controlled about who would do it. And we would work with an outside party that would sort of manage the whole process. That person had been identified, and Ellen's been moving this up. It seems like it's a really good plan. We need to just get aligned with the transfer station and make sure that they're on board with it. I understand that you're this.
Yeah, I talked to Laura about it.
Okay, good.
Yep. We just want to make sure that that facility is locked and it's not open. It's only open 3 days a week.
Yep.
So that if there's another location possibly just outside of the gates that would be more accessible to the others.
Okay.
Because otherwise they'd be locked into the operating hours of the transfer station.
Yeah, we did talk about that. I don't know if we thought that was burden or not, but we should certainly discuss that option, because I think you raised that.
Yeah, just so the more access.
Because I thought you could probably tuck it into the outside of the transfer station, so it might look like it's, a part of the transfer station, but people would be able to use it anytime
Yeah.
because it's locked.
Right. And so this would be sort of a pilot program and see how it would work. And I think, this is a really good initiative for the town on, there are communities that do composting community-wide. So, you know, this would be the first step to see how it works.
Great. And you think you're not gonna be a problem getting 30 residents initially?
Oh, I don't think so. I think, I know there's a lot of people that do it currently at their home and compost, and actually talked about people who are currently composting, going out, talking to their neighbors and trying to get them involved with it. Once we do it at home, and once you start doing it, it just becomes natural, and it's actually reduces the waste significantly in the garbage. And there's a lot of advantages to the environment. And then in addition, the CAC has had some conversations with the planning department concerning the
Well, yeah, I have that under planning department, but essentially, we talked at the last meeting about the positive secret determination for the Mohawk Golf Club. We reached out to the Mohawk Golf Club, we gave them the town secret determination, we gave them all of the documentation regarding that determination, and we asked for them to return it to us quickly because we were worried about the 60-day timeline, and they pointed out that actually the drafting of the scope does not have a timeline. Once the draft scope is submitted, then you have your 60-day timeline. And I double checked that in the secret cookbook, it does say that. So, we are essentially waiting for them to submit the draft scope. And then we have 60 days to go back and forth with them on what we want the draft scope to contain. And it also goes out to the public during that 60-day time frame. I think seeker guidance recommends it's out to the public for at least 20 days of that 60 days before the draft scope is finalized. So right now we're just waiting.
We've had conversations though, to sort of get aligned on what we think the scope should look like, but there's nothing hard yet. I think Clark has put together a pretty good, like, skeleton.
Right. No.
Yes, yeah, he was
So we're
working with me
figuring
hard on. He was sorry.
All right.
So,
But we're pretty safe that this 60 days doesn't start until they submit their draft.
if you look at your flow charts, it doesn't look that way, but if you dive into the actual seeker documents, it does say that the 60 days starts when the draft scope.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was looking at the documentation, and I think I came to a meeting with Clark, and we were like, the 60 days starts with this. I mean, I independently came up with the same.
Yeah, because one of the flow charts looks
Yeah.
that way. It just has all the lines together and that's what it looks like. But if you actually dive into the individual flow chart guidance, it then states that 60 days doesn't start until the draft scope is submitted, which makes sense because if you're trying to get a draft scope made and then have a 20-day period for comment and then go back and forth
All within 60.
all within 60 days. But once you have a draft, I think it gives you a chance to go back and forth and then do your public outreach, but yeah.
Right. Does that bring us to the architectural review board?
Yep. So I just have one more thing. It is in the last pages of your packet. Dennis can speak on this too, but Dennis and Clark have been working with Jim McKinley and going back and forth to the architectural review board, and this was the latest. And what they changed was they used to have two paths that came directly out from here to the bike path, and they made it a little circle. And I personally think that this is the best one so far. I'm very pleased with it. They were going back and forth on whether they wanted the front to look symmetrical or asymmetrical. I personally favored asymmetrical. I'm the only one. So I got overruled on that. That's completely fine. This is the symmetrical version. There's ADA accessibility on either side. The ramps come up. They have the gates. And this last tweak was just to change the pavement, but I like it a lot. I think it kind of makes the space, and it echoes this little bay window, so it makes the face look nicer. So I'm very grateful to Dennis and Clark and the architectural review board for how much they've been looking at it. I think it's very close to being ready to be put out to bid too. And I think it's gonna be beautiful. I'm really excited about it.
Just a kind
He really has. He's a hardworking guy.
Architectural Review Board really helped. The original design sort of covered up some of the building.
Yeah.
In the building, so having it this way, really, the building still stands out.
And it'll be safer and ADA accessible, and I think it just looks really nice. So, yeah,
And at some point, we really need to do something pretty good for.
the building itself too. Yeah. So what we,
Yeah.
and he even, I think in one of his last emails, started identifying grant sources for that stuff. And he got some really good grants for Emily Dickinson's home in New Hampshire,
Not in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Yeah, so I think he was looking at some of those similar places.
The federal Saving America's Treasures Grant, I think it's called, and have to go. It's supposed to be for a minimum of 100,000. But I think one is one where you have to raise part. Federal government match it.
And what the grant would be used for what component of this?
Well, the inside, the roof.
Okay.
Not the deck. This is already got.
No, I know it's the deck. I was just wondering where your concern was then.
Yeah, the roof is terrible. And inside is really pretty good. And the building itself is solid.
That's currently a slate roof?
Yeah.
Well, the
And
country's
that's
like
it.
that.
Yeah, actually, he was actually really good. So we can talk.
All right. And we need to do something formidable for our architect friend who's been putting a lot of time and effort after the project.
Even if he helps us submit the grant, like not that many people submit this grant because the grant application is extremely onerous. And he's like, it's fine, I'll do it.
We got to put some thought to that.
Well, I do know he and his wife want a park bench. For their son, one of their sons died cancer, I think. They want to get a park bench. I think they've talked to Laura about the park bench program, so
Sure.
town could,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
one I.
Yeah, yeah, that's very good. Maybe that a plaque or something. All right, very good.
Okay, comprehensive plan committee, we have started digging into the open space, recreation section of the plan, and we're probably gonna spend, the next couple meetings looking at that. We're also awaiting the traffic or the complete streets comprehensive plan, which, once we receive that, we're gonna meet with them and we'll look at integrating that in. So we're beginning to work our way through the sections. We are still, working to get that survey out. The residents were close. We just gotta sort of work out some bugs that have come up on that. But we're progressing.
Excellent.
And then for building department, I wanted to let you guys know, we put out the vacant home registration. I think I said before, we mailed it to maybe 30 or so homes. We've got probably 5 or 6 registrations in. So some of those homes will go to notice and order, but it did work as intended on Balltown Road. Some of the homes, they looked like they had a demolition permit. They did not have a demolition permit. They had submitted their vacant home registration. So when we got a call, like we were able to just go into Trish's highly organized files and find the registration and the contact people and put out a notice and order. And at least as of yesterday, I think the cautious date that Ken put up was still up, but we got a commitment from those owners to go out and board those buildings up because they are currently not secured. So still some work to do, but at least in the case when we needed it, it worked as intended, which was nice. Yeah, so for planning department, we have the seeker, which we talked about. What I did was at the last meeting, we talked about is how we were gonna remove Polsinelli and Vincenzo Drive, and then realized that we should probably remove the connection to the river. And then I think Chairman Delarada had that good idea of maybe reviewing the entire official street map, because I actually think there's another connection. We put Park Ridge Drive where there's supposed to be a road connection, which can no longer be made because it's a loop. So I haven't had a chance to work on it too much, but what I figured was I'll move it under planning department. And then when it gets ready, we'll try and update that town official street map. It's probably very timely, because it'll tie into the comprehensive plan. But something that the town board will have to take action on. And then the council road sidewalk too, I just keep that there. So I'll work on both of those two things.
Excellent. Do we have Dr. Horton with us today?
We don't have him today. I believe he was waiting to a report in early fall for Metroplex though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Nothing
have
from Ms. Lynn? All
anything.
right. Anything from Dr. Brennan?
Well, first I'll point out, Hanning's article comes out today. If anybody's interested, it was kind of, it's gonna use the word fun, but, 1880, a tramp died in this unit. Turned out he was begging nickels and dimes the day before he died and had $20,000 in US bonds. No kidding. 10 widows showed up. Dozen nieces and nephews, I guess. It's sort of an interesting. And on we have gotten the Federation Committee got some demolition requests, which we're working on the four homes on Balltown Road. Have they already got their demolition done?
They have not,
I drove by them and they look like this. Just shells.
right,
Yeah.
so they definitely appear to be partially demolished. That's one of the reasons that there was an issue that we had to go to the vacant
Yeah.
registration for. Our understanding is that they were doing asbestos, but they did it, on their own and then to secure the buildings. But yeah, they're pretty far along in terms of having things removed.
Miller properties?
The Miller properties. Yeah.
All right, I just drove by it. Bacon Avenue is barely in this unit, is in this unit. That property, we're going to be visiting that property on Tuesday, late Tuesday. The owner's gonna go and do it. I'm not sure there's any reason to deny the permit, but it is an older home and thought it'd be nice as an exercise for the preservation committee to go in and see the home, look about, see what's inside. Maybe there is something in there that we want to consider.
Is it occupied?
I don't think so. I think
It was rented.
yeah.
Yeah.
It has been occupied, but I think the two owners, one wife died last year, and I'm not sure. I think the husband has now moved in with his daughter into Lansing.
Yeah.
So,
On that one, I think it would be really good for the historical committee to just get a sense of the building, but
Yeah.
the permit may not be able to be issued because it is associated with the planning board project. But I don't think that unless only disagree with me that that's just asking you guys to go looking at it and maybe good information for the planning board to have or the homeowner, like one or the other is probably a good thing for them.
Yeah, that was my question I was gonna ask. Is that the house?
Yeah, it's one of the homes that was considered in demolition for the 3900 State Street.
Yeah.
parking lot. So I was talking to Elaine about it yesterday. And we've got a couple steps that we need to take on that. Especially because it's possible that 3900 State Street may return, but I don't think that that should stop those other communities from coming down. If you're okay with that.
No, actually, I think that would be helpful in the whole.
I looked at the outside of the house. I'm not sure why she wants to come out. I guess that's almost great.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a lot would be worth more without the house on.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that it would be either, but yeah.
2890 River Road, I said, just got a day or so ago. I haven't even driven by it yet. But again, that's another one, it's back to 1880. It's in the mail thing. But it still is, but it's not the CT mail thing.
Oh, it's a different.
Matter of fact, the current owner is was a male. But anyway, we'll try to take a look at that. See what that. Again, that's tied into the development.
Well, we haven't seen the application.
Yeah.
Planning board level. So, yeah.
Four units.
It's what the original concept was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another one that they submitted the subdivision approval for, but I don't believe they want to move forward with the subdivision anymore. I think they just want to do single family homes. But they will have to formally withdraw their subdivision approval if they just want to get a demolition permit and put something on it.
And Roger, on this one, is that what the thought is?
Yeah.
Where,
So we'll
where
just have
is
to
this
make
house
sure-
located on?
That's the park.
Okay, just before you look to, Seneca, on the right.
Oh, okay, I know which one you're talking about. Okay.
There's actually two there.
Yeah.
There's one really close to the park entrance,
Yep.
and then there's a second one in the same side. Sort of tucked back in the forest. Kind of-
Oh, I didn't realize there was a second one, is it behind?
It's a little bit behind and more in the forest. The one that's directly adjacent to the River Road Park is well taken care of and well loved. This one is kind of, this one's kind of a little overgrown. You know, by us.
I think I know which one.
You know anything?
The, St. Joseph's, the lights, is like waiting for delivery, is that what's
I
going on?
believe delivery, and I talked to the engineer at the end of last week, and he thought that it should be in the end of this week, August 1st through August 3rd. I haven't heard, so I'll have to follow up, but I'm trying to get that installed as soon as possible because there's still people that are using the crosswalk. So I want to get that. There's two sets of rapid flashing beacons on that one because of sight line, so I really want to get those out.
Is there anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye, and we are adjourned until September 1st. Thank you. September 1st.
Yeah.